want to welcome everyone here to the next episode of our Changing Lives series, where we explore the journey of developers around the world and how working on Codeable has impacted their career. And we have a great guest who has a lot of great stories to share about her experience working on Codeable. And we are here with Edith. It is great to have you here. How are things?
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great to be on this, finally to be on this podcast.
Ever since I started the series, I really wanted to have you on. So I really thank you so much for, sharing your story. Just before we get started, there's something small that kind of made you smile this week.
Yeah, so for me, I live close to the river. So for me, it's walking along the river and just seeing spring arriving. I live in Austria, and I don't live in the pretty mountain part. I live
Okay.
close to the river Danube, and we've had so much fog this winter, you wouldn't believe it. So seeing the sun, seeing the daffodils coming out, just being at the river, that really made me smile. It's great to see that happening.
I'm really not so far from you in Germany. And look,
Mm.
even though you say it's not the pretty part of Austria, I could say Austria is in general, the whole of Austria is quite beautiful. So I'm sure even though you might not be close to the Alps, it's still, I'm sure, very beautiful. So let's get started. Do you want to tell everyone sort of like your story and sort of how you started working, with WordPress?
Okay, so I'm a bit of the older generation, so my story actually goes back to before WordPress
Yes.
even was such a popular CMS. I used to live in the UK, and I worked for a big insurance company called Aviva, previously Norwich Union, and I lived in Norwich, so I was management support there. um, Huge company, very interesting work, but I really, really wanted to build websites. I started teaching myself, and I knew that was something I wanted to do. So around 2005, I sort of took the plunge. I started a small hosting company called Terra Network with my late partner. And back then, hosting was a very, very different environment to what it is now. I
Absolutely.
remember when we started hosting, you had to pay extra to have a database. And a lot of hosting providers like One and One, which is now Ionos, didn't offer databases as a matter of course. So if you wanted an e-commerce site, it was really hard to find the right hosting. So we had a great little niche there, and also a good customer base. And I started building e-commerce shops. So at the time, there was a groundbreaking open source software called OS Commerce, which probably nobody remembers now. But back then, that was a really big deal because it was open source, everybody could use it, and you could build your own shop. And it was a fantastic community of coders. We were all on the forums, we were all learning at the same time. We were very open with exchanging knowledge. There wasn't a rivalry as such because everything was so wide open for everyone that you just helped each other. And that was a great community to be in. I did things like looking after the PayPal module that integrated the PayPal payment for that. And it gave small shop owners a real advantage to be right there at the front because, I mean, this will sound crazy to people, but living in the UK, there's a big clothing shop called Next.
Yep.
And when they started, and back then you ordered with catalogs. I mean, this again, this will sound absolutely crazy to the younger generation. So
Yes.
if you wanted to order clothes at home, you got a big, big catalog printed and
Yes.
mailed to you. And then you would mail in your order. And when they started to go online, I remember what Next did is they would shut down the online store at 6 o'clock at night when the shop closed. So you could only order during the business hours of the store.
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure why they did it that way. Maybe because they didn't have customer support back then. But yeah, so that was the landscape. I started getting into it, and it was a fantastic time. Just because it feels a bit like now with AI, it was like everything was wide open and possible if you just were determined enough to learn. And WordPress came a bit later because OS Commerce was, it had some trouble being maintained and developed. The open source community got a bit fragmented. So I looked for an alternative and I came across WooCommerce. So my main entry into WordPress was actually via WooCommerce.
Yes.
And I'm really glad I made that shift because that did turn out the right decision.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so cool to hear how the internet used to be and how shopping used to be. I am in the same age group, and I definitely do think back to those times and think how much easier sort of being online is for sure. You sort of already touched on this slightly, but could you name some of your, I guess, the challenges you faced sort of earlier in your career?
Yeah, so I mean, well, on the funny side, I lived in a small cottage in rural England. So it was beautiful to live in. It was over 100 years old. But we weren't quite at the forefront of British telecom when it came to the internet. So we had very slow internet. I remember when I did big site migrations, that I would be up all night, like first downloading the site and then re-uploading it to the new server. So that was incredibly slow. And I was running a hosting business. So of course I had support tickets I needed to give to clients. And I remember I think it was at the weekend one night, the internet just totally died on us. And the cafes and everywhere where you would be able to get a good internet connection were already closed at that point. So I just took the car and went to the local supermarket, Tesco, and where I had a good mobile phone connection, because the mobile phone connection at my cottage was also terrible. We had to have landline where I was. And I just did support tickets out from the car. I mean, the customers didn't know. Everything was fine. But those are sort of I don't miss those days.
Yeah, absolutely. We get speeds now that we wouldn't have thought, 5 or 10 years ago or even possible. So you are now obviously one of the most well-respected experts on Codeable when it comes to WooCommerce for sure. So can you explain a little bit what your work life was like?
It wasn't too different. I think the main thing with Codeable is that I didn't have this community around me. So when I offered full site builds, I would hire in designers, but I was too small to offer them a full-time job. But I was too big to work on my own. So it was a very uncomfortable middle I was in. And I knew that wasn't sustainable. I either needed, I didn't want to shrink further, but I either needed to grow into an agency where I would employ people. But the downside of that is you become a manager, because I was kind of halfway there. I had at one point 3 part-time developers working for me and a designer, and I didn't get to do any coding. I was just managing other people's time. And for me, that was the most boring part of the whole job. And I felt like I got self-employed to do what I love, which is working with websites, with clients. And I got stuck with the part of the job I liked the least, which is managing people and time. So I knew I had to find a third way. And that's kind of then the journey where I started to look at other options, and I came across Codeable. Because at Codeable, I have a community of people around me where I can build on-demand teams.
Yes.
So I have colleagues I know, I trust, I've met them, I know how they work. And if I need to buy in extra help, I can get that easily from people I know.
Yes.
And I can do it flexibly. And it's the other way around. Like, I've worked with people on Codeable who are primarily designers and who need a bit of help, specialist WooCommerce help. And then I just can come into the project and help them with that. So that's a very unique way of working. And I'm really glad I came across that, because I was really stuck at some point trying to figure out, okay, I don't want to be an agency, but how can I deliver the quality of work and the breadth of work I want to deliver to my clients? And that was I was very lucky to have found that solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, that's a beautiful segue into the next question of like, how did you first hear about Codeable and kind of what made you? I mean, you kind of already answered what made you apply, but yeah, how did you first hear about the platform?
So pure chance. So I was around Brexit time. There was a big change. I was selling my hosting business. I was moving back to my native Austria from the UK, and I was looking to reorientate myself. And I also needed to find a new pipeline of customers, because with selling my hosting business, I'd lost that kind of way to get myself in front of clients. And just by pure chance, another developer was talking about Codeable on LinkedIn. And I'd never heard of Codeable. It wasn't on my radar. I think it's still a bit of a well-kept secret, really.
Yes. I mean, look, I still stand by that. I think it is one of the best-kept secrets in WordPress.
Yeah. I do wish we weren't. I think we shouldn't be a secret because we're so good. But I just heard about it. And as soon as I looked at it, what I really liked was the emphasis on quality, because I looked at the other platforms, and if a client gets like 100 estimates,
Yes.
That's, to me, is not a good way of working. I want to work like that. My clients don't really want to work like that. It just seemed like on other platforms you could get overwhelmed with replies, and I couldn't see myself going down that road. So
I kind of like that workroom environment where it's not, there's other experts in one room, of course, but yeah, it's not so overwhelming for the client. They have like a maximum of 3 experts, and everyone can kind of can estimate and stuff. No, it's cool. And so there is quite a hard screening process. Obviously, to have the best developers in WordPress, there has to be a screening process. So how was the screening process for you when you joined?
Well, I applied during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, so I had plenty of time on my hands. I thought it is tough, but it is appropriate. I felt well supported throughout the process, because there are several stages. So you can only progress to the next stage if you passed one, which is, makes sense. So it's a several stage process. I did feel very well supported. I felt it was very appropriate, because Codeable needed to be sure that I was who I said I was, and I could deliver what I said I could deliver. I think it's very appropriate. That's the word I come to. It's not easy, but it shouldn't be easy.
I think it is not easy, but it's fair. It's fair, and it can really separate a kind of a really good developer to a really great developer. And obviously the people on Codeable are all great. So yeah, I totally agree. So I know it would have been a few years ago now, but what was your first project like on Codeable?
Okay, so I actually had to look that one. Looked that one up in preparation for this podcast, because I thought we might be talking a bit about that, and I wasn't sure because it was a while back. But looking back, I did a couple of consultations. So we have these fixed fee consultations on Codeable. I think it's $67 if I say something like that, if I remember correctly, where you can just get an hour of time with a developer to go through a problem. So that's a great way to start discussing something where it might not, you might not be yet sure how you're going to tackle it. And then I started working with a US client who had a membership site. And that was a great first real project to have on Codeable. So that was a site delivering meal plans to people. And they had customer complaints. They had some internal issues with how the meal plans were being done and were being handled, and needed somebody on the technical side to support them and work with them to provide customization and bug fixing. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I was a great client. If they're listening in, yeah, shout out. I loved working with you.
You sort of already explained your kind of story of how you started working with WordPress, and now you're kind of delving into kind of working on Codeable. So would you be able to explain what the biggest difference is between the sort of way you used to work with the agency and now working on Codeable?
So I think compared to working on my own, the main difference is that the reach of Codeable means that I have a great diversity of clients, and I really love that. So my name is put in front of clients from around the world. So I have clients uh, pretty much everywhere. So I have clients like Australia, Canada, US, of course, and UK, but also people locally from Germany and Switzerland find me via Codeable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I really enjoy. And the other thing is you chat with colleagues and with other experts, and you're in touch with them. So it forces me to keep myself fresh, because you hear an exciting thing somebody else is doing, and you sort of think, oh, how did you do it? And oh, that looks cool. Oh, I want to do that. And I like that aspect of it. Just the challenge of seeing what other experts are achieving, and then having the diversity of clients where you can use that knowledge.
I'd say one of the biggest advantages from our point of view as being developers is working in a community. And so that was my next question. How have you found working in the community of Codeable?
For me, it's been really brilliant, because I worked a lot on my own before. I've been freelance for a long time. I'm used to being in a home office on my own, and having that community for me for the first time, going to a WordCamp and actually bumping into colleagues left, right, and center. That for me was great. The first big WordCamp Europe I did was in Athens in 2024, and that was fantastic. So that was really cool. And I will be at WordCamp Europe Krakow as well. So because obviously that's not too far from where I am.
Yes.
So that's great. And even like locally, WordCamp Vienna is just around the corner. And for example, Codable's Birgit Olsam is speaking. So that's just great, going to a WordCamp and already knowing, yeah, colleagues there, we're going to meet up, and it's going to be great hearing her talk.
It's really great that, being at a WordCamp and being a Codeable expert, it is something like a little bit special. And it is great that Codeable organise their own sort of events inside of WordCamp, which is always great, where we can meet up with other experts. Every WordCamp I attend, it's always great meeting new people. It's a really great experience. And anyone who is listening to this who is a Codeable expert who hasn't been to a WordCamp, whether it's in the EU or in the States, I would definitely say those are the two biggest events, and you should definitely go, even if it's just to meet and hang out with other Codeable experts. It's a really great experience.
Also CloudFest, I think, things
Yes.
like that, the hackathons. Yeah, if you're an expert and you haven't been, come please. We'd love to see you, because also it's a good mixture of having fun and also just talking a bit shop, so exchanging ideas face to face. Even though we're all online and we love being online, face to face is still different.
Yes.
So I remember coming back from Athens. I was flying back, and then I took the train from Vienna back home. And I was just on my laptop. I was just like really inspired to get going and start doing new things. So yeah, it's fun and cool and inspiring.
The next WordCamp is only around the corner, so I'm sure you must be getting excited for that one for sure.
It's all booked.
Excellent. So how has Codeable changed your professional life?
So it's the main thing is it's putting me in touch with clients where I can make a difference, because I'm a specialist. So I'm not a graphical designer. Obviously, I do understand design and I can build a good looking store. But if you need a logo design or a rebrand, that's not where you would hire me. So the type of things where I can add the most value is with WooCommerce stores and performance optimizations. That's really where it's kind of the T people talk about. So you have a low level of knowledge across a large area, and then you go deep down into one area. And for me, that's the WooCommerce store. And what Codeable has changed is that it's put me in touch with the people where I can really make a difference for them. So it's on my own. Finding those people on LinkedIn would be incredibly hard, because most clients don't even know what to look for when they need me. They might just say, oh, my store is a bit slow or something. But then finding that one person on the internet that can help you with that, that's tough.
Absolutely.
But when they come into Codeable, they post a project, I see it and I think, yeah, that's where I can help. That's a good fit for me. So it's I don't know if that's an appropriate term, but it's a bit like a professional dating agency, or like a networking platform where you get matched up.
There are several different ways to become a successful Codeable expert, and definitely one of the ways is being a specialist in one kind of niche field, and being in WooCommerce is one of the best niches to be in. It's I don't know, it would be definitely one of the biggest plugins. There'd be many stores that want an e-commerce solution, and WooCommerce is hands down the most successful and the biggest. So you certainly have a great niche, and I could say that you are definitely one of the most well respected in that niche. I know if I ever have a question with WooCommerce, or if I'm stuck, I would definitely reach out to you. That's for sure.
That's very kind. Thank you. I know I waffle on about WooCommerce a lot, but hey.
It's great. And so has kind of working on Codeable changed your personal life at all?
Yeah, it hasn't changed so much, really. It's changed WordCamps for me, because I've got a community there now, so that's great. But I was already working freelance, so I was already, that's not much change there, really.
You sort of spoke about your first project, and you sort of said how great that client was. Is there a sort of standout project or client that sort of really always sticks in your head when you're looking at a workroom, or you're just like thinking about your experience on Codeable?
It's a tough question, because I love working with my clients. I've been really lucky with having fantastic clients to work with. From small to big, and each has their own challenges and their own interesting points. But one thing that stands out for me, so my work is obviously we work under non-disclosure agreements. So I'm not going to go into the specifics, but last year I did a lot of WooCommerce work around checkout. So WooCommerce changed how they store orders. So previously they stored orders together with all the content, and obviously as your store grows and orders start flooding in, hopefully if you're doing well, that's not great for performance. And WooCommerce brought out a new system of doing that, which is called high performance order storage. But the main thing is it makes your store run faster. And I implemented the migration to this new order storage for a client, together with checkout performances for the payment system. And the challenge was they had a very busy store. So while I was working on the store,
yes,
orders kept flooding in, or payments were being processed, customers were active on the site. And that was achieved with zero downtime, zero impact. So while I was working, the store was taking in money, orders were being processed, and in the background, all the orders were migrated to an entirely new storage system in the database. And the outcome was very significant. There was a very significant reduction in the time it takes from when you hit the submit order button on checkout to the time when you see the thank you page.
Yes.
So it was, obviously I measured it, but you didn't actually have to measure it, because it was just, you could just feel it when you did a test transaction. Whereas before you would kind of look at the screen and wonder, has it frozen on me? It just went through. So yeah, I'm proud of that. That was a really, really cool project. Client was very happy. And it was just great seeing the orders happening in the background while I was doing the work. And nothing was interrupted, not a single order.
That is one of the biggest challenges working with a WooCommerce store that kind of has orders flooding in. And to kind of circle back to in the past, you said that that you worked with stores that would be only open from 9 to 5. That would have been a lot easier. If the store was closed at 6 o'clock, you would have been able to just kind of work in the background. But as we know, in 2026, that is not a thing at all. So I have to ask you, and if there is a WordPress developer who's watching this and is thinking, wow, I would really love to become a Codeable expert, what sort of advice would you give them if they're kind of looking to apply to be a Codeable expert?
Well, I would say you've got to be great at WordPress.
Yeah, of course.
That's like the absolute, that's the starting point. But you also need to be really well-rounded with the business side. So at Codeable, I know developers have a bit of a reputation for sometimes being more keyboard orientated than people orientated. And, that's cool. We love our work. We want to be good at it. But you also need to be good at the business side. So with that, I mean communications, sales, and managing your time. You've got to keep to your promises. And you also got to be good with English. So for me, it was fairly easy because I lived in the UK for 20 years. German's my mother language, but I'm very comfortable in English. But yeah, if you apply, have good WordPress skills, be good at managing yourself from the business side, and have good English. Having a specialty might help, but Codeable is also great for generalists.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have to have a specialty, and we've got a mix of developers and designers, front end, back end. So that's both fine.
I really do think that's a great way. I mean, look, every time I ask this question to an expert, they always kind of side with the kind of soft skills are an important thing to have. You could be the best WordPress developer, but without some kind of soft skills, then obviously there are some great experts in the workrooms. And a client needs to build that trust, not just with how they could do the project from a code side, but from that kind of soft skill and kind of building trust thing. So yeah, that's a really great answer. Yeah. So you have kind of said how amazing it is working on Codeable, and I also agree. But if you had some advice for Codeable on sort of if they could improve in an area.
Yeah, I think at Codeable we've always been really good at delivering tailored work. But it can be intimidating for customers to go through a scoping and estimation process. So I think it started, but I would like to see more packages. I mean, not just packages, but to have a mix of off-the-shelf and tailored work. Because I think it's good for clients to see what value for money they can get. So, for example, and it has started. So, it is starting at Codeable, and I would like to see more of it. One initiative we've started this year is maintenance plans, where you actually can come to the Codeable website and you can look at a range of maintenance plans and see how much they cost you per month and exactly what you're going to get for it. And that's the kind of thing I would like to see more of, because I think if you're a store owner or a client, a WordPress site owner, it can be intimidating to if you don't have any idea how much something will cost you or what you're going to get for it. So having an off-the-shelf plan gives you an idea where we're at. And you might actually surprised how much you're going to get for your money. So,
Yes.
there is a lot of good value. And I think sometimes Codeable people might be a bit worried, like, oh, you're too expensive for us. And we're probably not. That's the answer. We're probably not as expensive as you think we are, because we are delivering a lot of value in the time we spend with clients. So yeah, that's my request, is a really good mix of off-the-shelf packages to complement the tailored work we're doing.
I absolutely agree that like having a solution that's off the shelf, even if it's not any more expensive than something that is custom done in scoping, but I think it, even from the client's point of view, it feels like it might not be so expensive, where if something has to be hand built for you, it might seem expensive, but something like, as you said, they have started the maintenance packages, which I think are really great, and they're fair. And so you could start with the package, and then you might be able to tweak it and add some stuff, but at least the client has something to kind of see and say, oh, that's how much it costs. So yeah, I think that's some really excellent advice. Is there any exciting projects on the horizon, or any big things for 2026 you want to achieve?
Well, for me, this feels the most exciting since I've e-commerce started, because of AI. So
Absolutely.
artificial intelligence. I mean, the amount of change we have every month is amazing. I mean, it is very challenging to keep up, but it's also very exciting. I was a long time on the fence about AI, but the last months have brought a real shift in how AI works for coding and what's possible. And WordPress is also very keen on integrating AI into its ecosystem. There are so many initiatives going on that make WordPress a really good platform if you're interested in having a website that's AI ready, and AI positive. So for me, that's really 2026 is all about AI. Make it work for myself. Now, I am a control freak because I work with e-commerce sites.
Yep.
So there's data protection, there's payment processing rules. I'm not the kind of person that's going to let an AI agent loose on a client side and hope for the best. That's never going to happen. So that's also the challenge, is how to implement AI in a safe, controlled way that makes sense for the clients. Right now, I'm at the step where I implement it internally for myself, again with safety mechanisms and guardrails. But it's already transformed how I work and what I can do for my clients. For me, it means delivering better projects faster.
Yes.
And that's amazing. It's a fantastic tool, but I see it as a coding tool. So I read every line of code that goes live. Everything is read and checked, and AI makes mistakes. And when you have the experience behind you, you look at the code and you think, yeah, we could do it this way, but it will fall over in production because it's not performance orientated. So for me, it's a tool. It's not a black box. Nothing goes live that's not checked. And I will also correct it when I know there's a better way of doing something. So, but yeah, it's exciting. I don't know how you're finding it.
I was on the fence as well, like scared and like, is it going to steal everyone's job and stuff? But I think that the way you're using it is that it'll make you stand out. Because yeah, I'm sure you've had clients that have come to you and they've already implemented some code from AI. And of course, it takes someone like you who does read every line of code and does check and say, yeah, I can see what the AI is trying to do here, and there's always a but, and you'll kind of fix it. And I think that's what separates you from someone who's just kind of used AI and just have slabs of code straight from AI. Yeah, I think that's how you're going to stand out. And yeah, look, of course the landscape will change, but someone like you, and I think the way you're doing it, you will stand out. So yeah, I'm really excited as well for AI.
I do think it would change things.
Absolutely.
I think it's a big change. I'm not scared, but you gotta keep riding the wave on that one. It's like when mobile phones came out. If you thought landline was going to last forever, well, I have bad news for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, the same if if you bought, I don't know, if one of my friends bought Betamax. I mean, most people don't remember what that is. That was because we have gone through so many iterations of how movies are now delivered to us. But it is definitely, it's happening. It's here. I'm not scared, but I don't buy into the hype. I must say, I think there's a lot of hype out there, which, I listen and I think, yeah, okay, let's see.
Yes.
But uh, there is an underlying reality of it being a really good tool, and that's exciting.
So I only have one last question, which I always ask all of the Changing Lives guests. And the question is, if you could sum up your Codeable journey in one sentence, what would it be?
Yeah, okay, this might sound corny now, but seriously, with Codeable, I feel like I found my tribe. It's a great community of experts, and it's a fantastic range of clients. So yeah, I found my community, and that's a really good feeling.
I agree. I think that obviously you have from the client side and from the dev side, and we speak from the dev side, and I could totally agree that the community is the thing that makes a Codeable sort of feel like a family, whether you go to WordCamps or not, even just in Slack. It's a really great community. So yeah, I totally think your sentence, it's extremely sweet. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Like I said, I've wanted you to be on this series since I started. So yeah, I have to thank you so much. And I know there'll be a lot of people that will want to watch this. People will want to hear your story and perhaps be inspired to specialize in something, whether it be WooCommerce or something else. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was really great, and I'm sorry I waited so long. Yeah, things always get in the way, but it's great to have been here finally.
Thanks also everyone for seeing this episode, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories from experts. We will have one in the coming months, so yeah, stay tuned for that and see everyone on the next one.